So in this video, what we're going to learn to do is how to wire up all of our electronics and have them installed into our 3D printed parts such that they can quickly get attached to our system. So what we're going to do is go first through our electronic parts, and then we're going to install them onto the shield and have the sensors put into our 3D printed parts. So let's make sure we have everything. You're going to need your shield. Right, the shield is what's going to power everything and allow us to connect the sensors. The microbit is going to be our controller. That's what's going to have the program on it that's going to operate everything. That's what we're going to program. We have a little OLED screen that's going to display our data. We have a temperature and humidity sensor that's going to record air and humidity data. We have a relay. The relay is the most complicated of the sensors, and it's not really a sensor. It's something called an actuator because it causes something to happen on another object, so it turns things on or off. Right? So it's going to allow us to turn on and off the fan or turn on and off other objects if we had other objects that we wanted to attach. Think of just a basic switch, right? It's on or off. We're going to have a little LED strip. We're going to use that to be a visual warning or things are all good. Let's say if the temperature gets too high, we can have the LED strip turn red, or if it's okay, it'll stay green, so we can get a quick sense on the health of our system. We're going to need some 4-pin wires. One wire should be long because you might want to place your temperature sensor at different points on your system. You're also going to need a fan. And one thing to note with the fan is it also comes pre-wired, just like our relay comes pre-wired. And you're going to need a propeller because that's what's going to turn our motor into a fan that's going to help us with airflow. Okay. Then you're going to need some 3D printed parts. Our screen holder is yellow. Our temperature sensor holder is red, and it has two parts, a bottom and a lid. The relay holder is gray. The shield holder is black, and the fan holder comes in two parts. It comes with a part that's got a clip attached to it that's going to attach to the system, and it's got a little extender so we can move it out a little bit so you can get better airflow over your plants, and then it comes with its own fan holder. Okay. So let's get started. First thing we're going to need is let's put our shield into our shield holder, and it's designed to be a reasonably tight fit because we don't want it to fall out. So you kind of just slide it in and push it in. It's kind of like taking a credit card or any other thing and putting it into a little slot. Okay? And notice there's two places where it's held in place, so it's not coming out. Okay? That's why you can have your shield in any orientation that you want on the system. Okay? All right, and it's easier to have it in its holder first before you start attaching parts to it. Okay? So now let's just go systematically through this. We're going to start on the left. We're going to move to the right of our Grove shield as I'm sitting down looking at it, but it's facing me. We're going to start with our I2C port. The screen is the only thing we're using that goes into the I2C port, and the screen will only work on the I2C port. So step one is let's get our screen inserted into the little holder, and it can be a little tricky because the 3D printed parts are slightly bigger than the sensors because we don't want the sensors to fall out. And so it can be a little bit of a tight fit. So you kind of just angle it in and wiggle it in and give it a very gentle push. Don't push on the screen too hard. It's fragile. It will break. But once it's in, right, it doesn't fall out. And that's what we want. Then you're going to need to grab one of your cables. You're going to plug it in right in the back. And if it doesn't go in one way, you just flip it around because the wires only go in one way. And this gets plugged directly to my I2C port. Okay. Next, let's do our temperature sensor. Same thing. Grab the red temperature sensor holder. Insert your temperature sensor into that. Put the lid on. And the lid just keeps it from falling out. All right, so if you want to have the sensor hanging upside down or something like that, it keeps your sensor in its position. Make sure that you grab your long wire because, again, your temperature is something that might vary the most as you move around your system. just insert the wire into the temperature sensor holder, and it's going to go on port P0. Okay. So now I've got my temperature sensor on P0, my screen on I2C. Next up is going to be my relay. So I'm going to need my gray relay holder. I've got my relay. It should have an alligator clip with a plug attached to it. Okay. And you kind of slide it in just similar to the screen, and you should hear a little click once you hear that it's gone in, and that makes it, it's a pretty firm connection, a little bit of wiggle room, but it holds it nice and snug. Okay. Now what we're going to need to do is attach our fan to the Grove Shield, and the relay also gets attached to the fan. So how are we going to do that? Well, you're going to grab your cable. Cable goes from the relay. Our relay is going to get plugged into port P1. Okay. Now, our fan is going to get connected to the relay via the plug. But first, let's plug our fan into its holder. Okay. So you have a little motor, and the trick here with the motor is the fan holder is designed to be very snug, because we don't want our fan to come out, particularly if it's spinning and it hits your plants, right? So bad things will happen. And note the wires is that you want to make sure that everything gets inserted from the front so that the wires are facing out, so that they don't get pinched anywhere, so that they don't accidentally get broken, because they're kind of fragile. So take your fan, insert it at a little bit of an angle, give it a push. I usually push with both thumbs, and you should hear a click, and that means that it is inserted and it's nice and snug. And now I can put my propeller on. Alright, and that's going to turn into a fan. Just double check it, make sure that your fan spins freely, that you didn't push it too far, that it's hitting something, because it'll rub, and then that will just make the fan less effective. Then you've got your extension holder. What's easiest here is don't twist the fan, because what's going to happen is you're going to twist the wires around it. Take your extension holder and spin it onto the fan holder, okay, till it gets tight. Okay, and you can get it very tight if you want, but you might want to leave some give there, because you eventually might want to move your fan around, and again, this rotates because we want to be able to have our fan in different orientations to get the airflow in the right direction over our plants. Then all we have to do is attach our fan, which has one type of plug. The Shield, the Grove relay has another plug attached to it. They just plug into each other. It's like a positive and negative plug. They just boom, right together. And so now that's plugged in. Last step for the relay is the relay needs power, right? The fan needs power. How it gets that power is through the alligator clips. So on your Shield, you're going to see a 3V3 and a ground. The red connects to 3.3 or 3V3. That's 3.3 volts. Think of that as a battery, right? The black is going to attach to the ground. Think of that as the negative side of the battery. So we've got positive and negative. So when the relay is on, the Grove Shield can send current, which is going to cause our fan to move. Okay. All right. So I'm just going to get my relay back in my relay holder here. And our last sensor that we're going to install is our LED strip. It's the easiest one to install because it already comes with a wire directly attached to it, and all we have to do for it is plug it into port P2, or the only port that remains. So as a quick review, as an overview, remember our screen goes into I2C, our temperature goes into P0, our relay goes into P1, and our LED strip goes into P2. We have to make sure that our relay is attached with its alligator clips, positive or red to 3.3 volts, ground is black, which is 0 volts, and that we've got our fan plugged into the relay. Okay, and if we've got all that remains then is to program the microbit. And once you've got the microbit programmed, all you have to do is just insert the microbit directly into our Grove Shield. And then the only thing that remains after that is you grab a USB cable, and once your program is functional and you're sure it works, all you have to do is plug in your Grove Shield, and bingo, everything should work.